your midlife ladies, you will know that sneeze leaks, that key in the door syndrome, that urgency, constipation issues, pain, tension, aches, all of these things are so unbelievably common when we hit sort of 40 plus. Um, and a lot of these pelvic floor issues in particular are derailing great women. They're stopping amazing women from living the lives that they want to live and specifically showing up like they would like to show up. And because the pelvic floor muscles are the beginning of the whole core system, and it's why I say our core health is our core wealth, because if our pelvic floor muscles are not working the way we want them to, then it affects everything up the chain and down the chain. Um, and I believe that that instability also affects the core of who we are and how we show up. So that's why I say our core health is our core wealth. And I also say when you align with your body, that's when you align with your life, you align with your vitality, you can align with your purpose. So I'm Linda Stephens, as you guys know. I have been working in women's health in particular for nearly 2 decades. It all started with my first two babies. I used to have a career in television, and that very much, that identity was who I was. And I was busy on the digital launch in Australia, having launched digital television here in England at Sky TV. And it was an exciting time. And I was 33 weeks pregnant, and my waters broke. And within 20 minutes, I had my baby being cut out of me, emergency cesarean. And then 14 months later, found myself pregnant again, and I managed to have a VBAC. Oh, so VBAC 14 months later, 5 months later, I found out I was pregnant again, immaculate conception. Anyway, that put paid to my career and my sense of self. I retrained as a yoga teacher a couple of years into having those two bubs. I needed yoga to help me find myself again, and also help me sort of get my physical strength back again. I became a pre and postnatal specialist. I deep dived into women's health right from the off. 7 years later, found myself pregnant again at 40, and at 24 weeks went into full-blown labor. So I'm not somebody who's able to hold babies long, and it's because I naturally have very low progesterone. And anyway, put on cervix stitched up, put on bed rest. Of course, if you don't use it, you lose it. My whole pelvic area completely atrophied. Stood up quickly one day at 31 weeks, I think I was, and my pubic bone completely split, which was utterly horrendous, I can't tell you. And I was bound. And anyway, I did make it to 39 weeks, stitches taken out. Ended up having a pretty traumatic birth, but I did birth like naturally and without intervention, but I couldn't walk afterwards, which was the worry. And I'm a determined wee thing. I already had a lot of tools, but I ended up going to a deep dive, working with a biomechanics expert, putting together my own program, which is the basis of my yoga birthing method and yoga mums, and all of my pelvic recovery work now. To be honest, I healed my pelvic floor from the inside out, so I avoided surgery. I got myself back to having a 5 out of 5 pelvic floor, and I was back jumping on trampolines and so on and so forth. But then I hit perimenopause. Specifically later on in perimenopause, the beginning part of perimenopause derailed me as well. That is when we start to lose our progesterone. So I'm just going to share a slide here, because I think that you might be quite interested to hear why certain pelvic floor issues start relatively early on in our perimenopause journey. So I'm just going to here we go. I'm gonna share this. All right, if I make this full screen, hopefully, guys, can you see that? All right, Amy? Yeah, perfect. All righty, so this is what I wanted to show you. From about 38, so I've got 35 here, but from about 38, we start to lose our progesterone. So we start to have anovulatory cycles. And when we start to lose our progesterone, we tend to have more of the tension issues, anxiety, heart palpitations, insomnia, depression, IBS. We get a lot of constipation. So issues that make us be more tense. And as women, we hold that tension in our pelvic area. So we know that as soon as we hit perimenopause, women are twice as likely to suffer from gut issues like IBS than men are. Um, so I just wanted to show you, this is my chart. So obviously it's not a scientifically right chart. It's just what I managed to do on the computer. So roughly between 35 and 50, our progesterone is dropping relatively steadily, but quite significantly. So we lose about 70% of our ovarian estrogen between 35 and just before 50. Whereas the estrogen, that tends to start dropping off a little bit later, around 45. And it drops off in these fits and spurts. So we might be really quite high in estrogen compared to progesterone one moment, and then the estrogen drops right down the next moment, and the differential isn't that significant. And it's the differential between these two sister hormones that really causes a lot of our symptoms. Now, between 35 and about, so I'd say about 49 or so, we only lose, when I say only, we only lose about 35% of our estrogen. So it's later on in our perimenopausal journey, around, I'd say about 48, 49, and 50. That's when the estrogen levels start to massively drop off. So in the last few years before we go through actual menopause itself, we have the significant drop, about 60% of estrogen. And estrogen is the hormone that is absolutely kind of saturated around the pelvic bowl area. So all of our pelvic organs, the urethra, the sphincter muscles, the actual pelvic floor itself, the vaginal walls, the pelvic floor, all the muscles that make up the pelvic floor and deeper into the pelvic bowl, all the ligaments, even the fascia, everything is very influenced and nourished by estrogen. So quite often early on in perimenopause, it might be more the sort of the key in the door urgency, the suddenly, oh, I really need the loo issues, or constipation issues, maybe a bit of pain, discomfort. And later on, it tends to be more the prolapse, and the more severe leaking. And it's amazing how much that loss of estrogen and the loss of strength can really affect us. So here are some common peri to postmenopausal issues that women experience when we start to lose these key hormones that literally run our whole body and brain. And I've put the ones that I'm going to sort of refer to tonight in pink. So, we've got our sort of bladder urgency, our urge incontinence. That's when we just don't make it in time. The UTIs, the IBS, the vulvar varicosities and vulvar discomfort. These things and low back pain tend to be, symptoms that we get earlier on in our perimenopause. It's not that they go away later on, it's just that they might start to appear earlier on. And then we start to face more of the prolapse of the organs as we get into those later years. What did I want to tell you about this? Yeah. 80% of women, in fact, there's a study recently done that said 83% of women are going to experience some form of pelvic floor dysfunction in their lifetimes. Unbelievably common. And it might just be the odd sneeze leak, but actually 1 in 4 women experience fecal incontinence, especially over 45. In 2020, that was the year that incontinence pads started to outsell baby nappies worldwide. So and actually over 50, most women have a degree of prolapse because of the slackening of the vaginal walls, and often these days it's because of intra-abdominal pressure, unmitigated intra-abdominal pressure downwards, which causes prolapsing organs. So a stage 1, stage 2 is almost normal. It's very, very widespread, and that's why it's just absolutely crucial that we take active steps to stop prolapses getting worse, because once it gets to stage 3 and stage 4, it's a lot more problematic. We can do a huge amount to improve a stage 1 or stage 2 prolapse. And we know that many, many women go into nursing homes because of incontinence issues, and almost all stay in nursing homes because of incontinence issues. And that's a potentially avoidable burden on family. And this big one, we know that for all-cause mortality, we need to keep exercising. We need to keep moving. We need to keep mobile. So important for our balance, for our heart health, for our bone health. And yet we also know that for 50% of midlife women, pelvic floor dysfunction issues are a barrier to exercise. So there's a lot there, hey? Hang on, I'm just going to move us on. So what are these pelvic floor dysfunctions aggravated by? Well, absolutely a loss of estrogen that comes with this peri to postmenopausal stage. But I would say almost as bad, almost as contributory, is bad posture, shallow breathing, mouth breathing, muscle weakness, so sarcopenia, and interestingly, because not many people focus on this at all, is muscle tension. So actually, in my Women's Wellbeing Pathway 123, which is in my membership, the very first class is this release and replenish yoga-based class. So I bring in a lot of somatic practices, vagus nerve activation practices, fascia tension releasing practices. It's all about relieving mental anxiety and physical tension, unwinding tension patterns around the jaw, neck, shoulders, around the pelvic area, increasing breath capacity, etc. Just down training everything, so that when we go on and start to build muscle, build posture, we've actually got muscles that can respond to that strengthening. So that's why I've got even though it's my signature class, I've got that as number 2 on the pathway. And absolutely, I'm such a big advocate of, we've got to be future proofing. We've got to be doing muscle strengthening, bone strengthening. We've got to be working on our balance, our mobility, our agility. And I've got a Hatha Strong class. I call it, it's a high intensity but low impact class. But it's number 3 because if you go straight into that kind of HIIT class, strengthening class, weightlifting stuff, when you're not breathing well, or your breath holding, or your posture's really bad, or you're incredibly stressed and you've got a whole lot of cortisol and adrenaline going around your system, you're going to be exacerbating problems. You're going to make them potentially worse. So I just wanted to flag that one for you. So let's have a little look. So the key practices, the 5 key practices that I just wanted to touch on tonight to bring your awareness to. Number 1, honestly, this you're going to find this now that I've said this, you're going to find you hear this everywhere, is stress reduction. I can't tell you. I mean, I am a A-type personality. I'm somebody who's always been doing. I now know that those three babies that came early were because my adrenal glands were not able to produce the progesterone they should have been because I was revving too much. When we are overactive up here and we are constantly saying yes to everything and we're not replenishing our adrenal glands, we're not giving ourselves time to, I call it down train. What happens is that tension that we have between the ears, that stress, that busyness, for women, it shows up in the pelvic area. It shows up as tension, congestion, muscles that I'm just going to get you to squeeze your fist here. Yeah, squeeze your fist. That dig your nails into your fist. And if you just keep squeezing this, if you notice that after a while, where your nails are pushing into your hand, it hurts. So if you imagine you've got tension constantly around the pelvic area, soon your back's going to start hurting. Your piriformis is going to start getting squeezed and sending sciatic pain down your leg. Your pelvic floor muscles might start to spasm. If you have an examination, it might hurt. You might bleed. You might get thrush, etc. afterwards. So just notice how hard it then is to undo those muscles. Yeah, if you've been squeezing your hand tight. So stress reduction, releasing, lengthening muscles, super important. Posture, because as I was just saying to Amanda, when our posture is slouched, we cut off our ability to breathe. Our diaphragm and our pelvic diaphragm, they are the top and the bottom of our whole core system. And if they are not working well in synergy together because of your posture, you're literally cutting off your vitality. You're cutting off blood supply and a good sort of vascular flow into the pelvic area. So posture absolutely links and also to optimizing your breathing. I reckon most people only use 20 to 30% of their lung capacity. And there's an enormous amount of women who mouth breathe. So as soon as we have our head poked forward and our shoulders are slightly forward, we will be cutting off our ability to access the lower lobes of our lungs. And we have most of our lung capacity down here at the back of the lower lobes of the lungs. So if we're chest breathing, we tend to shallow breathe as well. And if we're mouth breathing, we're absolutely shallow breathing. And when we're shallow breathing, we're telling our brain that we are in danger. So we go into the sympathetic nervous system and we get stuck in the sympathetic nervous system. So we might have got stuck in there originally from a particular stressor, a trauma, a birth experience, a shock, or it might just be life. Yeah, life just becoming too busy, and then we start to lose our chill out progesterone hormone, and suddenly that's ramping up. And if we start to shallow breathe and we don't ever use the bottom parts of our lungs, we don't slow and stretch our breathing, we get caught in this tension, panic, pain, stress cycle. Yeah, and it's can be quite hard to get out of that. So optimizing breathing will also help us to properly release pelvic floor muscles and calm everything down, but also properly activate those muscles. Part of these 5 key pelvic core practices is the knack. And the knack is just a term for proper pelvic floor activation. So an activation kind of through the anus, through the vagina, through the front, the urethra at the front, drawing everything in and up, and then properly releasing as well. So we'll have a little practice of that. And then the last S is for supplementing, so re-elasticizing those pelvic floor muscle fibers. And these together are kind of the gold standard. They are the foundations, and within each of these categories, there are all sorts of practices that I have developed over many, many, many years. So I just wanted to do a little sort of overview today of what what you could experience if you do the I've got a 5-week foundations course, and I wanted to tell you a little bit more about that at the end. But for now, I'm going to get you to do a few of these practices so you can feel in your body what I'm talking about, and how much this can make a difference to how you breathe, how you feel in your body. So I'm just going to stop the share there so you can see me. Yeah. Hi, those of you who have joined. So we're going to need a bit of space if you're going to be joining me for this bit, and either a pillow or a bolster. So you could just grab a pillow off the sofa. If you've got a chair, that would be good. So I can just show you how to get into good alignment when you're sitting as well. And I'm going to use the wall space as well. So if you haven't got a bit of wall space, just listen to what I'm saying and do the best you can. So we'll start first of all standing up. Hopefully you can see me all. Amanda, can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see me and hear me all right? Yeah? Fantastic. All right, so guys, stand up with me so I can see you. Gosh, even just sitting down for that little bit, I can feel the kind of the tension in my body. I did say on the email, grab yourself a belt or a strap. Don't worry if you haven't got one, but if you have, let's grab mine. That could be quite useful. All right, let's just give ourselves a little rinse through the body. Yeah, just rinse everything out. The fascia rinse, I do this in a lot. We just want to open the body, give it a rinse out, just shake your sillies out, give your knees a soft bounce. Fantastic. Now, when we are typically standing, and this is the average woman, toes go slightly out. So I'm going to get you to do this with me. Toes go slightly out, and pelvis tends to go forward. And quite often we see knees locked like that. So just do that with me. Pelvis forward, knees locked, toes slightly out. A bit of a squeeze of the bum, like you're trying to make your bum look smaller. And then a little bit of a sucking of the tum to try and make your tummy look a bit flatter. But most of us are on computers or on our phone a bit too much. So we tend to be a little bit collapsed and tight through here, these pectoral muscles. So just roll your shoulders forward a little bit. Now our head will always go over our pelvis. So if your pelvis is slightly forward, your head will be slightly pokey. So maybe just let your head go forward a little bit too. Now, if somebody said to you, you need to pull your shoulders back, what we tend to do is just lift our boobs. Yeah, so we tend to do that. Shoulders are actually still slightly forward, but we've just kind of lifted the rib cage. So I'm going to get you to do that too. Bottom of the rib cage, lift it up. There. Head forward, shoulders slightly forward, pelvis slightly forward, knees locked, and a squeeziness here. So this is what I see so often. It's not so much that, which is what we used to think, and everyone was like, tuck your tail, tuck your tail. I tend to see this more now, which you can't breathe. This is 8 to 10 pounds of weight. It's like a Christmas turkey hanging off your neck. So I don't know if you can feel your neck and shoulders getting super tight here. And just focus here for a minute. If you turn your toes right out, exaggerate this, turn them right out, and then push your pelvis forward. Can you feel around your sacrum how kind of congested that becomes? If we do this all day, basically use our pelvis as a bit of a shelf, we end up creating enormous amounts of tension through our back, and we stop our diaphragm and our pelvic diaphragm, which are supposed to work together, being able to work together. So I'm going to get you to come against your bit of wall, and what we're looking to do, I'll show you sideways before we go on. we're looking to have our toes straight forward, yeah? And we want to have soft knees. So what I mean by soft knees is you don't lock them back. You keep a tiny dent at the back of your knees. And then our bottom, our behind us, it's called behind because it's supposed to be behind us. So try not to have your pelvis pushed forward. Try to push your pelvis slightly back so your bum just sits behind you. You don't poke it, you just let it sit behind you. I like to imagine there is a kangaroo tail, you know, a big heavy kangaroo tail kind of dropping back and down from the sacrum. Now, this is the bit that is tricky. If we've been slightly lifting the rib cage, just below the bra strap, you want to pull that back and spread it so that it feels like the bottom of the rib cage is dropping down. Now, initially, your head's going to poke forward. So what we're going to do is pull the head back, and we're going to roll the shoulders one at a time back so that they actually sit in the sockets. And for this exercise, your hands are going to be forward. Yeah, so because as soon as we do that, shoulders are forward, are rolling forward. So we're going to have our palms forward. You don't walk around like that, but it's just for this exercise. So come against your wall. You want to have, I'd say, 2 inches for your bum, 1 inch between your heels and the wall. So leave enough room for your bottom. Toes are straight forward. Soften the knees. Dent here at the front of your pelvis. Bottom leaning into the wall. Now, see if you can draw the top of your body into the wall. Start with your shoulders. Lift and roll one shoulder. Drop it into the back of the socket. Palm forward. Back of the arm into the wall. Other shoulder lift, slide those fingers down, palm forward, back of the arm into the wall. Now draw your chin back. So give yourself a double chin. Draw your chin back. See if you can get the ridge of your head to touch the wall. That's what we're aiming for. If you've got a severe head poke, you won't be able to, but that's what we're aiming for. Now, that bit that's poking off right now, see if you can spread the area below your bra strap into the wall, draw your rib cage back. It's going to feel weird. Yeah, it's going to feel weird. Now, focus on your feet for a moment. Spread your toes, push down, soft knees, down and slightly out with your feet. Yeah, so down and slightly out. And then back with your bum, back with your arms, back with that area just below the bra strap, back and out, chin in, and see if you can reach your head into the wall as well. So gently press the head to the wall. Now, we need to breathe down here. Diaphragmatically breathe outwards. Imagine you are a fish and you're breathing into your gills down here. So chin in, breathing in and out of your nostrils. Just stay here for another couple of seconds. Down and out with your feet, soften your knees, back with your bum, back with your arms, back with your shoulders, back below the bra strap, back with your head, chin tucked in. Good, and then just step away from the wall. Just give your shoulders a lift and a roll, a lift and a roll. Drop your head, lift and roll, slide it around. And then restack your head on top of your neck and come back to where you just were as you came off the wall. So hopefully you feel like a mother cat who's just picked you up by the scruff of the neck and chins in, and you have this nice elongated cervical spine. Head sits on top of neck and shoulders. Shoulders sit on top of pelvis and behind. Pelvis sits on top of knees and ankles. So you want to feel like, when you're standing in alignment, you want to feel like, your corsetry muscles, if we had a corset on, all of these muscles are just very gently activated to support your spine. If I am like that, I can't feel anything. If I'm aligned, it's just a subtle activation. Also, if I had a big heavy thing on my head, couple of bricks on my head or a nice big heavy crown, the weight of it would go straight down through my skeleton. So I wouldn't actually use any extra energy to hold that weight. Now, we want to sit in this alignment as well. So I'm just going to, if you've got a chair there, most chairs are a bit like this. You sit down, and especially car seats are a bit like this. Sit down and look, it puts you into that curved, kind of sucky, tucky. Look how easy it is to do that. Head poke, tucked under. When our pelvis is tucked under, yeah, when that happens, our pelvic floor muscles go, they just completely scrunch. So try this in your car or when you're sitting at the desk next time. Stick your bum at the back of the chair and then take a small hand towel or your jacket or something like that, roll it up and do just like we did against the wall. Lift and roll one shoulder, then the other shoulder. Imagine a mother cat's picked you up by the scruff of the neck. So you draw your chin back, lengthen through the back of your neck. Or as I always say in my classes, we've got a string attached to the back of our head and the top of our head. And those strings are drawing us up towards the ceiling. So create that length and then put your prop just behind where your bra strap is. So your shoulders, the bottom of your shoulder blades sit on that prop. So you don't want to, it can't be too big because you don't want to be pushing yourself forward. But it's just, if it's right, this will now be in alignment. And again, you'll feel as if all of these muscles are just slightly switched on. And when I'm in this position, I can do pelvic floor exercises and they will actually be working my pelvic floor muscles. Whereas if I'm in this position at the light and I'm doing my pelvic floor exercises, all I'm going to be doing is squeezing my bum muscles and creating tension around the anus, basically. So alignment is super, super important. I'm going to get you to, we're sitting here, grab your belt and we'll just look at breathing. Does that make sense about our alignment? Yeah. I'll tell you what, you're going to start noticing now when you see people around, you're going to be like, oh my life, look at that. And I do all the time. When I see mums with, mum jeans and they've got no lumbar spine, because our bowel sits against the lumbar here, and our bowel should be supported by a lumbar curve. But if it, and then the bowel sits on the uterus and the uterus sits on the bladder. But if we're like that, there is nothing for our bowel to sit against. There's no containment. And it's so easy then for the organs to drop straight down onto the pelvic floor, which is scrunched and not elastic. Again, so much more likely to get prolapse if you are all sucking and tucking. So let's do this. Take your belt. If you haven't got a belt, sit up nice and tall and just use your hands like that. Just put your hands on your bottom ribs. So we're going to put this belt around our bottom ribs. Yeah. So just around where the floating ribs are. So not too high, just down here. And have it pretty tight. Now go back into your alignment with your chin tucked in. When in a yoga class, when you're in alignment, it really matters because it creates a slight constriction through the goiter, the back of your throat. And what that does is as you breathe, with every single breath you take, the vagus nerve gets activated. So if you are slowing and stretching your diaphragmatic breath, you're activating the vagus nerve too. And the vagus nerve is our super highway into that parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest healing state. If we're shallow, rapid breathing, and especially if our posture is like this, we're just telling our brain that we're constantly in fight and flight. We're constantly in that inflamed stress response, and our pelvic floor muscles are going to be like as a result. So let's get nice and aligned. Now, chin in, imagine your lungs are like a big vase, yeah, one of those nice big circular vases, and your breath in is like water pouring into the vase. So it goes down into the bottom of the lungs and then out to the sides and starts to fill up through here, the intercostal muscles between our ribs, so outwards, and then up to the top of the vase or the top of our lungs up here last of all. So the clavicle area, the chest area, that fills up last of all. See if you can soften your jaw and just breathe in and out of your nostrils. So breathing in slowly. And as you breathe in, see if you can press your ribs outwards into the belt. And then as you breathe out again, see if you can create a bit of space there. So breathing in, feel the belt being squeezed. And then breathing out, you want to have a bit of space here. When we're breathing with the chin drawn in and just through the nostrils, we want to slow and stretch the breath. So I like to imagine it's like an accordion. Yeah, so stretching the diaphragm down and then out. And then slowly releasing the breath. So breathing, I mean, I spend whole classes on breathing. So this is just a very short overview of how you can practice accessing down here, which is where we have most of our lung capacity. And if you're finding that nothing's moving here, yeah, and it's not, you can't really feel any movement through the rib cage, then there's just work to do. Yeah, it's santosha, acceptance. It is what it is. We've just found out, Swadhyaya, that there's a bit of stuckness with our diaphragm. Not surprising, life is stressful, but there's an awful lot we can do about this. Now, whilst we are in this position, I'm going to get you to activate your pelvic floor muscles. So lean slightly, come to the end of your chair and lean slightly forward, yeah, so that we're in a little bit of position like this. If you've got your bolster close by, put it under your feet. So you bring your knees slightly up, and that'll help you get into a more of a squatting position. And if you've got your blanket, better still, slide that underneath just your sitting bones, just the back of your bottom, so that your whole pelvis is slightly tilted forward. So we were designed to eliminate in a squat, yeah, so in a squatting position. When we're sitting like this and straining, all we're doing is putting enormous amounts of pressure down through the pelvic floor. So try to get yourself a squatty potty and lift your feet up so that when you are on the loo eliminating, you're in more of a squatting position. So our pipes, when we're in a squatting position, the urethra, vagina, the anus, they're dropping downwards, which is what we want. And in this position, we can spread our sitting bones and we can get a more of a lengthened pelvic floor. So first of all, I'm going to get you to breathe in and then just go, ah, and really relax your jaw. Go, ah. And as you go, see if you can let your pelvic floor muscles just relax. So imagine a flower opening, flower petals opening, like that. When we're eliminating, especially a poo, we want to be, long apana, it's called a downward flow. The jaw and the pelvic floor are deeply fascially connected. So they're connected right down. So if we are like this and we're on our phones and we're like, our pelvic floor muscle is going to be like that. And if you're going, all you're doing is putting massive pressure downwards, you're likely to end up with a rectocele, varicose veins, vulvar varicosities, they're called, more stress incontinence problems. So don't do that. Yeah, try and relax your jaw, put yourself in a good position and release and relax those pelvic floor muscles using your jaw, relaxing the facial muscles. Now, when we want to activate, we actually want to get the diaphragm, because remember the diaphragm and the pelvic diaphragm, they actually work together. They are the top and the bottom of our whole core system. So when we want to activate those muscles, if you go, so little constriction, making the breath out have to work a little bit harder, like you're blowing out of a straw. If you do that, the diaphragm has to kind of push the breath out of your lungs. So we get a corresponding slight vacuum upwards naturally of our pelvic floor muscles. Now, not if we're like this, not if we're like that, but if we're like this, we will. So we can activate the pelvic floor muscles. It feels like you're stopping yourself passing wind and stopping yourself weeing at the same time. So see if you can relax the muscles to start off with, nice, relaxed, open pelvic floor, and then go, raise your eyebrows, lift up, and then relax down again. And then relax down. So after you've been for a wee or a poo, after you finish eliminating, this is quite a good time just to activate those pelvic floor muscles, as long as you totally relax them afterwards. So many women, especially if they are already stressed, will go activate, and then they don't let go, and then they activate more, and they don't let go, and they activate more, and then it's like what we did before. It's like holding constantly. And then when you do need those muscles to activate, because you're about to sneeze or cough, there's nowhere for them to go, and you will end up leaking. So really important. If you are plumping up those sphincter muscles, you want to and let go. I'm not going to go into it now because of time, but there's all sorts of techniques to activate both the fast twitch muscles and the slow twitch muscles. Basically, you need the fast twitch ones if you're going to sneeze or cough, because you need them to quickly activate like that. And they are best activated within other exercises. And we need our slow twitch muscles to be able to hold a contained contraction. So imagine you're in a lift, lots of other people in the lift, and you need to pass wind, and you don't want to pass wind. You need those slow twitch muscles to be nice and strong, to be able to hold that contraction until everyone's left the lift, and then you can go. So now let me just show you, actually, because this is something we should all get into the habit of doing. When you are even going from sit to stand, but if you're lifting weights, if you're about to sneeze, the T in spots is the knack. And the knack is simply just before you do the activation, and gravity or a weight or whatever is going to push downwards. With gravity, there's going to be pressure downwards on your pelvic floor. You want to be able to activate, so do a little bit of a feeling like you're stopping yourself passing wind as you either come up or lift up something heavy. So we'll just go from sit to stand. So I'm going to get you to lean slightly forward. Let me just come over here so you can see my feet. Lean slightly forward in your chair. You need to tell your grandmothers this one, because most of them are like pushing themselves up using their arms. It's really important. Hip, glutes, and hamstring strength as we age. We want to lean slightly forward. Weight is in the heels, knees on top of ankles. Weights in the heels. Little bit of a breath out as we come up. So first of all, activate pelvic floor, like lift up through the anus, like you're stopping yourself passing wind. And then we come up. We don't push our pelvis forward. We come up here, and then we relax your pelvic floor. So let's just try that one again. Slide your bum down. Lean slightly forward. Activate, stop yourself passing wind. Breathe out as you come up, pushing the heels into the ground. And then just relax your pelvic floor. So if I was lifting up something heavy, imagine this was a heavy basket of washing or something, I would be down here, activate pelvic floor, lifting, and then as I put it down, relaxing the pelvic floor. So we want to start to make sure that we are consciously working with that intra-abdominal pressure going downwards. So if I was about to jump, I'll just be doing a little activation before I land. I'm about to sneeze. It's a tiny, quick activation, the fast twitch muscles, before I have that intra-abdominal pressure going down. I teach all of this stuff in depth in this foundations course. But even if you just know, even if you just practice that, you'll be doing an awful lot of good for yourself. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of relaxation or release techniques because, like I said at the beginning, I know, I don't, it's not just that I think, I absolutely know that this is the foundation of everything. More important than anything else is you've got to start learning to regulate your nervous system. It's not only going to improve your pelvic floor function, it's going to improve your life. Everything is affected by our nervous system regulation. If we're stuck in that fright and flight state, and sometimes we don't know, it can look like saying yes to everything, people pleasing. It can look like that. But it can look like never having enough time for ourselves. We're constantly doing things for other people. It can look like being so busy that we end up scrolling on the phone just to numb ourselves. But this nervous system dysregulation means that our adrenal glands can't produce the progesterone and estrogen that they should be able to produce once our ovaries start to shut up shop. Instead, the adrenals are so busy pushing out more cortisol and more adrenaline, we miss out on the very, very crucial progesterone and estrogen. So we experience way worse other peri and postmenopausal symptoms. We age so much more rapidly, and like everything is affected, every single system in the body. So using our breath is the key thing. So I'm going to show you breath, and I'm just going to show you one other little technique. This is so easy, do it anywhere. We want to make sure that we're in alignment. So yeah, like that. Just make sure you're in alignment. When you breathe in through your nostrils. You've got to get rid of mouth breathing. If you're a mouth breather, please book in for a one-to-one with me because we need to sort that out. That's got to be the top priority of your life right now. Stop mouth breathing. So we want to breathe in through the nostrils. And then as you breathe out, just hum like a buzzy bee and go, and imagine that buzzy being hum is just pouring down through your mind and your body. Breathe in as if you're breathing up your spine through to the crown of your head, and then breathing out, just going, As you breathe out, relax your jaw. Remember, jaw and pelvic floor deeply fascially connected. Try that again. Breathe in. We did 3. I suggest you start doing that when you get in the car, if you're by yourself and you're just busy. If you're about to go into a meeting, go into the bathroom, just do a few of those buzzy bee breaths. There's so many other breath techniques, but that's just an easy one. And it's quite nice. It feels quite nice to do. Now, one thing I did want to show you because it's unbelievably effective and it's really simple, and all of us should be doing this at the end of the day, especially if you've got prolapse. I was going to show you several things, but because of time, I'm just going to show you this one thing. If you get onto your back and then, Amanda, can you see me on my back? Or do I need to tilt this down? I probably need to tilt it down a bit.
Yep, all good.
Thanks, darling. All right, so get on your back, like so, and just take a pillow or a bolster, or you could take a brick, yoga brick under your pelvis. Now, if you've got your, make sure it's not under your lower back, it's just under your pelvis. So you want to have your hip bones just at the edge of your bolster and your lower back dropping off. Now, this position, especially if you add doing some buzzy bee breaths in this position, or sighing out breaths. The physiological sigh is also very effective. Just breathing in either long exhalation or a hard open jaw. Basically, the longer you can make your exhalation with that, see, with my head like this, there's a constriction on the back of my throat. The longer you can make your exhalation, the more the vagus nerve gets activated. The vagus nerve is is Latin for wandering. It wanders from your brain right down through your throat area. It goes through every organ, every system of your body. It is, like I said, the superhighway into rest and digest, into calm, into healing, into homeostasis. It's really important that we activate the vagus nerve. If you're a mouth breather, you're not activating it at all, ever. So that's why I said it's really, really important to sort that out. In this position, my pelvic organs are dropping away from my pelvic floor. So if you've got prolapse, this is such a great position just to release that pressure. So spending 5-10 minutes in this position every night, really, really helpful. Also, the psoas muscles, which I haven't talked about tonight, but I do go into that in the course. The psoas muscles, they attach the bottom part of our body to the top part of our body. The psoas muscles hold all stuff, all of our trauma, all of our stuff that we've managed without, when we had lots of estrogen, we managed to keep all of our stuff underneath the carpet. We can just manage to go la 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 la. But as soon as we hit midlife and we lose that progesterone, that chill out hormone, and we lose our estrogen, that regeneration and invigorating hormone, past stuff that we've managed to bury comes up, and it's all there. It's all in the psoas. So the psoas muscles, they attach to our inner thighs, they go through our pelvic floor muscles, they go through the diaphragm, and then they attach into the lower back, the lumbar spine. And so many people that I see with really chronic lower back pain. I just saw a woman she'd had surgery on her lower back, and unbelievably, no one had ever looked at her posture, and she was completely sucked and tucked, totally sucked and tucked. She wasn't breathing at all, mouth breathing, really shallow breathing, and I honestly can't believe that a surgeon had gone and performed surgery without doing any release, never referring her to someone like myself. It's phenomenal. So don't let that happen to you. There's so much that we can do to recalibrate the body. We just need to give it the right environment to come back into homeostasis, and it can. It's amazing how quickly the body can recalibrate given the right circumstances. So this position lets that psoas muscle naturally open and just kind of release. When we add long extended exhalations, we tell the brain we're safe, and the brain sends signals to these tight muscles that it's okay to start letting go. By the way, this position here, I won't go into it much now, but this position is also great to do pelvic floor activations for rectocele in particular, because we can really suck the organs back up into the body. And it's quite a good position if you're quite cut off from the belly button downwards and you just find it really difficult to begin activation. This is also a good position to practice those pelvic floor lifts and releases. Because of gravity, we've just got a little bit more suction with the pelvic floor and the diaphragm connection. Get a little bit more here. So, yeah, good all-round position. And in this position also, if you can come into a baby pose is the most ungainly pose in yoga, but it's amazing how it's just great for opening up the whole pelvic area. I always give my ankles a little release when I'm in this position. But knees apart, maybe rub those inner thighs. Just notice how tight they are. Tight adductors will always mean tight pelvic floor muscles. So these guys feel tight, then we've got a bit of work to do to release them and pelvic floor. So anything like this, any kind of just pelvic opening, thigh opening, inverted posture is going to very rapidly calm everything down and help you to release compounded stress. So listen, I'm going to